Let me say that God's grace isn't always something you can see with your eyes or touch with your hands. It's a quiet, unseen support in the background of our lives, like a steady hand guiding us, even when we're not fully aware of it. Imagine, if you will, the times when you found strength you didn't know you had, or when solutions to your problems seemed to arrive just in time. That's grace at work. It's vital that we learn to embrace this gift with a spirit of gratitude. We're all here, given this life, not just by chance, but by grace. And with this, we have an incredible opportunity to move forward, to improve, and to make the most of what we have. When we choose to see grace in our lives, we invite more of it. By living with an open heart, willing to receive, we create room for even more blessings. Now, God's grace often shows itself most powerfully during our toughest times. Think of the storms you've faced. Maybe you've lost a job, faced health challenges, or encountered difficult relationships. It's in those moments, if you look carefully, you'll see that grace provided you the resilience, the hope, and the wisdom to move through those hardships. In the midst of struggle, grace teaches us and refines us. It prepares us for the good days that lie ahead. And how can we truly align with grace? By aligning with a purpose bigger than ourselves. You see, when you're focused on a higher mission, when you're driven to help others or to make a positive impact, you start to feel an energy that lifts you up. That's grace responding to your commitment, to your dedication. Living a life touched by grace means we walk in faith and act with kindness. It means we carry forward the blessings we've been given, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. By serving, by giving, and by staying true to a path of humility and love, we're not only recipients of grace, but also messengers of it. When we speak of God's grace, we're talking about something subtle yet incredibly powerful. Grace is often like a gentle breeze. You can't see it, but you can feel it. And it touches every part of your life. While it's easy to focus on things we can see and measure, God's grace works quietly in the background, offering support and guidance that we may not even notice. It's the kind of influence that moves you forward, keeps you steady, and sometimes even protects you from what you didn't realize could have harmed you. Think about those moments in life when everything seemed uncertain, when you felt lost or overwhelmed, yet somehow you found the strength to keep going. Or maybe you remember a time when a helpful hand or wise advice came into your life at just the right moment. You may have called it coincidence, luck, or good timing, but often those are moments of grace in action. Grace isn't about big, dramatic interventions. It's about those quiet nudges, those gentle reminders, and those inner strengths that seem to appear just when you need them most. Grace works as unseen support in our lives. It's that calm voice within you that encourages patience when anger rises. It's the courage you feel to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. Grace strengthens our character and pushes us toward being our best selves, even when we're tempted to take shortcuts or lose hope. Grace is there to remind us that we are part of something larger and that there is a reason for each experience we go through, good or bad. This quiet influence also has a way of redirecting our lives, especially when we're not aware of it. Have you ever looked back on a time when you faced a challenge or went through something difficult, only to realize later that the experience actually led you to a better path? Maybe that setback opened the door to a new opportunity or taught you something invaluable about resilience. Often it's only in hindsight that we can see how grace was present, steering us away from harm or guiding us toward growth, even when it was difficult. God's grace is also present in our relationships. The people who come into our lives at the right time, the ones who inspire, support, or even challenge us, they are often vehicles of grace. They might offer us encouragement or wisdom that we didn't even know we needed. Grace works through these connections, showing up as a kind word from a friend, a stranger's smile, or a mentor's advice that resonates with us deeply. This influence gently reminds us that we are never truly alone. that there is a larger force at work connecting us with people who help us on our journey. Beyond support, grace provides us with resilience. It's the strength to forgive someone who has wronged us, even when it's hard. It's the patience to keep trying, to keep moving forward, even when the road is uncertain. Grace often reveals itself as inner strength we didn't know we had. It keeps us going in times of uncertainty and doubt. We may feel like giving up, but grace sustains us, encouraging us to keep faith and to trust that something good will come out of our efforts, even if we can't see it yet. Grace isn't about removing every obstacle or making life easy, rather. It's about equipping us with the resilience and wisdom to navigate those obstacles. When we embrace this perspective, we can start to see grace in all aspects of our lives, even in the struggles. We learn to be thankful, not just for the good days, but for the tough ones too, because we know that grace is helping us grow through every experience. So while grace may not be visible, its effects are deeply felt. It's present in every breath we take, in every moment we persevere, and in every time we find peace despite the chaos around us. Grace is the quiet hand guiding our steps, encouraging us to rise above, to do better, and to become all that we're meant to be. When we open our hearts to recognize and accept it, we invite more of that unseen support into our lives. Every day there are blessings we encounter, many of which go unnoticed. When we wake up to a new day, able to breathe, to move, and to experience life's wonders, we are already recipients of grace. For many of us, it's easy to fall into a routine, to take these things for granted, and to overlook the incredible value of the life and opportunities we have. But when we shift our perspective, choosing to see each day as a new expression of grace, life itself becomes richer and more meaningful. Gratitude brings us closer to this realization, helping us to live with a sense of awe for what we've been given. Embracing grace with gratitude also means accepting that some of our most valuable lessons come through unexpected or challenging experiences. Often we're only able to fully appreciate certain blessings when we look back on times of struggle and realize how they shaped us into stronger, wiser people. Perhaps there was a difficult period in your life that felt overwhelming, but in retrospect, you see that it pushed you to grow, to learn, and to become more resilient. These moments of growth are often moments of grace, but we only come to understand this when we approach them with gratitude. Gratitude for grace is about more than just acknowledging what we have. It's about embracing a spirit of thankfulness that influences our thoughts, our actions, and our relationships. When we live with gratitude, we become more generous, kinder, and more compassionate toward others. This is because gratitude opens our hearts, allowing us to see others with empathy and understanding. When we recognize how much we have been given, we're naturally inclined to share what we can and to offer support to those who might be struggling. In this way, grace works through us, extending outward and impacting the world around us in a ripple effect of kindness. It's also essential to remember that grace comes with a call to live purposefully. When we recognize and embrace grace with gratitude, we are inspired to make the most of our gifts and to live up to our potential. This isn't just about personal achievement or success, it's about using our strengths, our talents, and our time to contribute something meaningful to the world. Living in gratitude for grace means understanding that we each have something unique to offer, and that we are each a part of a larger divine plan. By fulfilling our purpose, by striving to do our best, we honor the grace that has been extended to us. In difficult times, gratitude for grace can be the light that guides us. It reminds us that even though we might not understand why certain things happen, there is always a purpose. This doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is perfect. Rather, it's about trusting that grace will carry us through even the darkest times. When we cultivate this mindset, we develop resilience, a sense of inner peace, and a confidence that, no matter what, grace is with us. Gratitude helps us hold on to hope, to see that even in hardship, there are lessons, blessings, and reasons to keep going. Embracing grace with gratitude allows us to live with a sense of fulfillment and joy. Instead of constantly seeking more, feeling as if something is missing, We learn to appreciate what we have right here and now. This approach to life not only brings contentment, but it also fosters a greater sense of connection to the people and world around us. We begin to see that grace is present in every aspect of life, from the smallest moments to the grandest experiences. When we practice gratitude, we open our eyes to all the ways grace touches us and supports us, often in ways we don't fully understand. In the end, living with gratitude for grace is about living in a state of openness, humility, and receptivity. It means choosing to see the good, even when life feels challenging, and choosing to appreciate what we have, even when we might want more. This way of living not only enhances our own lives, but it allows us to be a source of grace and encouragement for others. By embracing grace with gratitude, we become part of a cycle of giving and receiving, of blessing and being blessed. And in doing so, we live in harmony with a greater purpose, honoring the incredible gift of grace we've been given. When we think about the way God's grace appears in our lives, we often picture it in moments of ease and happiness when things are going smoothly and everything seems to align. But some of the most profound examples of grace reveal themselves in times of hardship, when we're faced with challenges, struggles, and uncertainty. It is during these difficult periods that grace steps in to support us, to carry us through, and to help us grow. This is the grace that offers us resilience, clarity, and inner strength when we feel stretched beyond our limits. When we face adversity, grace doesn't always take away the pain or make the journey easier, but it gives us the courage to endure it and to emerge stronger. In times of hardship, grace often comes to us as a deep, unexplainable calmness, or as a quiet voice reminding us to keep moving forward, even when we're unsure of the path. This is the gentle but powerful force that tells us not to give up, that there is still hope, and that we have the inner strength to face what's ahead. It's in these moments that we may not fully understand why we're going through certain challenges, but grace reassures us that there's a purpose to the struggle. And every experience, no matter how difficult, is part of a larger plan. Grace in adversity teaches us that our trials aren't meaningless. They're shaping us, preparing us, and guiding us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. Another way grace shows itself during hardship is by helping us shift our perspective. When we are faced with challenges, it's natural to feel weighed down by frustration, sadness, or even anger. But grace helps us to see these moments as opportunities for growth rather than just obstacles. Instead of focusing on what we've lost or what we're going through, grace invites us to consider what we can learn and how we can use this experience to become stronger, more compassionate, and more resilient. This shift in perspective doesn't mean we ignore our pain or pretend it doesn't exist, rather. It means that we choose to see beyond the hardship, understanding that there is something meaningful on the other side. Grace in times of adversity also brings people into our lives who can support us. Perhaps it's a friend who reaches out just when we need it most, or a stranger who offers a kind word or gesture that lifts our spirits. These individuals, whether they are close to us or briefly passing through our lives, can act as instruments of grace, reminding us that we're not alone. They provide comfort, encouragement, and sometimes even guidance that helps us to navigate the rough waters. Through these connections, we see that grace often works through others, coming to us in the form of support and compassion just when we need it. Additionally, grace during hardship often shows us strengths we didn't realize we had. When we're put to the test, we discover resilience, patience, and courage within ourselves that may have otherwise remained hidden. These are qualities that are built over time, often through the refining process of struggle. When we face adversity with an open heart, willing to grow and learn, we develop a kind of inner fortitude that no one can take away from us. Grace uses our challenges as opportunities to reveal our own strength, showing us that we are capable of more than we may have ever believed. One of the most powerful aspects of grace in adversity is that it helps us to develop empathy and compassion for others. When we've experienced hardship, we're better able to understand and relate to the struggles of those around us. Grace in our own suffering teaches us humility and compassion, making us more sensitive to the needs of others. This not only deepens our relationships, but also enriches our lives as we find purpose in helping and supporting those who may be going through similar challenges. Through our struggles, grace shapes us into people who can lift others up, and in doing so, we create a ripple effect of grace that extends far beyond ourselves. Grace in adversity teaches us to trust in something larger than ourselves. When we come to understand that we don't have to have all the answers, that it's okay to lean on faith, we open ourselves to a deeper connection with the divine. We begin to see that even in our most difficult moments, there is a guiding hand that is leading us toward growth, healing, and wholeness. This trust doesn't mean that we ignore our hardships. Instead, it allows us to approach them with a sense of peace, knowing that we're not alone on the journey. In times of struggle, grace is our steady anchor, holding us firm when everything else feels uncertain. It's the quiet assurance that we're being cared for, that there is a purpose to our pain, and that we're being shaped into stronger, more compassionate individuals. Embracing grace during adversity doesn't mean we won't experience hardship, but it does mean we can find meaning, growth, and even peace within it. Grace in our struggles is a gift that helps us to endure, to learn, and ultimately to become the people we're meant to be. Living a life that reflects God's grace involves more than simply recognizing it. It requires us to let grace shape our actions, our words, and even our thoughts. When we understand that grace is a gift, we move to share this gift in the way we live. Embracing grace deeply in our lives means that we strive to be a source of light and encouragement for others, to extend kindness and to cultivate understanding. Living by grace calls us to reflect its essence, to let it influence how we treat others, how we respond to challenges, and how we approach each day. One of the key aspects of living by grace is practicing forgiveness. When we recognize that we have received unearned grace, we understand that we too should show compassion and forgiveness toward others. This doesn't mean ignoring wrongs or letting ourselves be hurt by others repeatedly. Instead, it means choosing not to hold on to resentment or bitterness. Forgiving others is a way of letting go of the burden of negativity and allowing grace to fill that space. Through forgiveness, we reflect the same grace that has been given to us, acknowledging that none of us are perfect and that everyone deserves compassion. Living by grace also means being humble. When we recognize that our achievements, our successes, and even our daily lives are shaped by grace, it becomes easier to stay grounded and humble. Instead of viewing our accomplishments as solely our own doing, we begin to see them as gifts that we're entrusted with. This perspective frees us from pride and allows us to approach life with a sense of gratitude rather than entitlement. Humility reminds us to stay open, to keep learning, and to be willing to grow. By living with humility, we acknowledge that we are all interconnected, each of us relying on grace in one way or another. Another important aspect of living a life that reflects grace is kindness. Grace teaches us that we are all worthy of love and respect, and by showing kindness to others, we reinforce this truth. Small acts of kindness, whether they are noticed or not, have a way of impacting the lives of those around us. When we offer a listening ear, a helping hand, or simply a warm smile, we become conduits of grace. Kindness isn't always easy, especially when dealing with difficult people or challenging situations, but grace reminds us that kindness is often the very thing that can change hearts and minds. In choosing to be kind, we create an atmosphere of warmth and compassion, making the world a little more grace-filled with each interaction. Living by grace also means having a spirit of generosity. Grace is freely given, and when we allow it to shape our lives, we naturally become more generous with our time, resources, and love. Generosity doesn't have to mean grand gestures or extravagant donations sometimes. The smallest acts of giving make the biggest difference. Whether it's sharing our knowledge, lending a hand to someone in need, or simply being present for others, living with a spirit of generosity shows that we understand the true nature of grace. When we give freely without expecting anything in return, we reflect the grace that has been shown to us. Another powerful way to live a life that reflects God's grace is by choosing to see the good in others and the world around us. In today's world, it's easy to become cynical or to focus on the negative. However, grace teaches us that goodness exists even if it's sometimes hidden beneath the surface. By looking for the best in people and situations, we train ourselves to live with hope and optimism. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending that challenges don't exist. Rather, it's about choosing to see beyond them, to focus on the possibilities for growth and healing. When we look for the good, we encourage others to do the same, spreading positivity and creating a ripple effect of grace in our communities. Living by grace also involves patience and trust. There are times when life doesn't go as planned and we may feel discouraged or even hopeless. But grace reminds us that there is a bigger picture, one we may not fully understand. Patience allows us to endure challenges with a calm and steady heart, trusting that in time things will unfold as they are meant to. This patience isn't passive, it's an active choice to remain faithful, to keep going even when the path is unclear. Trusting in grace means we don't always need to have all the answers or control every outcome. Instead, we place our faith in the idea that we're guided, cared for, and part of a greater plan. Ultimately, living a life that reflects grace is about making choices that align with love, compassion, and understanding. It's about allowing grace to influence how we interact with others, how we face difficulties, and how we move through life. Each day presents opportunities to act in ways that honor the grace we've received. By living with forgiveness, humility, kindness, generosity, optimism, patience, and trust, we don't just receive grace, we embody it. And as we allow grace to shape us, we become beacons of hope and encouragement for others, showing them through our actions the beauty and power of a grace-filled life. Rooted in God's grace requires a deep and abiding trust in the process of life, even when things don't go as we plan. One of the most profound ways grace operates in our lives is by teaching us to trust the journey, even when it feels uncertain or difficult. When we truly understand that grace is not just about receiving gifts or favor in times of ease, but about being carried through every season of our lives, we learn to lean into uncertainty with confidence. Trusting the process means believing that every moment, no matter how challenging, is part of the larger story that God is unfolding in our lives.